It's me, Ari Dawsett. You call me Rashid. I'm an anthropologist and sociologist. Beware of artificial conflicts. Now, we know what conflict is. When two or more people or two or more parties want the same thing, but in a different way, or they want opposite things. So, there is an outcome that's going to happen, but multiple parties want a different outcome, or they want the same outcome but in a different way. And now you have friction, now you have clashes. That is a conflict. Now, we know that. Now, artificial conflict. It's called artificial because it's a conflict that has no root in reality. For example, let's say there's food scarcity somewhere, and if a bunch of people want to take extra loaves of bread, even though there's scarcity of food. Now, this is an actual real conflict because there's scarcity of food in that area. So people should divide the food resources equally so everyone can survive. If one group wants more food at the expense of others, that's an actual conflict over there. Or let's say now you have two men and they both infatuated with the same woman. The woman can only end up with one man eventually. So that can be an actual conflict. So conflict is when it's obvious that one outcome will happen, but people don't agree on how the outcome should happen, or the people want different outcomes. Now, conflicts can also be, for example, you and your wife have decided what to eat for dinner. Your wife wants to eat without meat, and you think, I just want some steak. Now, you can make a compromise on it, so that's not a big issue. Or let's say it can be a bigger conflict. I mean, your partner doesn't want to have kids, but you want to have a few more babies. I mean, that's a huge conflict that may not be able to be resolved. It may even terminate the marriage. But anyway, conflict, as already explained, is when there are opposing views on an outcome. Now, life has conflicts. We know that. Not every conflict becomes violent. For example, you wanting to eat steak and your wife just wants to eat vegetarian. Well, you can decide, oh, you take the steak, I just eat the vegetables. Simple as that. You can resolve it. I mean, if you're married to someone and you want a few more babies, don't. You know what? You can decide. You know what? Then we just separate at peace. No problem. So not every conflict has to become a violent matter. When do conflicts become violent? Conflicts become violent when either someone has an unrealistic expectation they won't give up, or they are hiding something. Let me explain it. Let me give an example. Let's say you have a couple, husband and wife, and the wife works at the school as a teacher, and she has an issue with one of the students at school. And she keeps complaining about the student, even trying to get the student evicted from school. At some point, even the principal of the school thought, hold on a minute, it goes a bit too far. This goes way too far. Yes, that student may have a big mouth here and there, but come on now. He has good grades and he's not violent, so what the heck? Even other teachers who have issues with the student think, okay, well, this goes a bit too far. Now, what's going on over here? She started an artificial conflict. She wants to make an issue with this student at school. Why? Because she has been cheating on her husband for a while. And she's not even certain that one of their children belongs to her husband. And this is something that, if it comes out, it's going to destroy her reputation, harm her family. It's going to look extremely bad on her. So, to make sure nobody pays attention to her nor her family, and nobody notices, hold on a minute, you have 3 children, but one of them doesn't even look like the father. To prevent people from noticing this, she wants to have external drama, so people pay attention to external drama. In this case, she is starting a fight with this student at high school, just to make her appear like the victim of the student, so that nobody will actually look at her. But now, because she went quite far with starting a fight with the student, now people will look into her and figure out what's really going on with her. In this case, she started artificial conflict. Why? Because there's something she's hiding. And this thing she's hiding is something that, if it comes out, it's going to make her look bad. It's going to affect others the wrong way. So she wants to avoid this confrontation and this downfall. It can be, for example, that there has been money laundering going on in a company. And suddenly you're fired. One day, they call you to the office, tell you you're fired, we have to let you go. Your work performance has been bad. They come with some weird excuse to fire you. And eventually you realize, you know what, I'm not going to fight this. This feels quite weird. They fire several people. Now, later you hear the rumors that money laundering is happening. And then you figure out what's going on. They fired a few people to make themselves look good, like they were getting rid of the problem. Now, are people going to look at you as a money launderer? No. But they fired you just to say, for them to save face. It wasn't your expense, but it was a conflict they started just so they can preserve whatever it is they want to preserve. Now, understand the following. Artificial conflicts are the norm in society. Society itself is one big artificial conflict. Why can't people just get along based on reality with one another? It is because human beings in a fallen state, they want to escape and have this obsession with control. That's why you have this thing called society, in which there's a struggle and a fight for resources. Whether resources are food, water, a place to stay, or sexual contact. Yes, society is a conflict concerning sexual contact too. So, understand the following. Artificial conflicts are the norm in society. The issue is, often we don't see that a conflict is artificial. Okay, let me talk about 2 incidents that happened in the United States for the past couple of years to show you how artificial conflicts play out at a large scale. For example, you had this movement called Black Lives Matter. I believe it started somewhere in 2012, and after the death of George Floyd, it went off the roof. And now there was a counter movement saying, no, all lives matter. All lives matter. See, some people say, you say Black Lives Matter, what about everyone else's life? It means you're excluding everyone else. But hold on, around the same time, you also had a lot of hate crimes increasing against people from Asian descent. So that was called anti-Asian hate. So then there was this movement is addressing, we have to be against anti-Asian hate. But here's the issue. I didn't see any counter movement saying, no, anti-Asian hate is wrong by itself. It should only be Asians who are addressed as potential victims. Nobody should be the target of hate crime. Why did I see a big uprising of such arguments? But when it came to Black Lives Matter, there was a big issue, all lives matter. Let me explain what goes on. Yes, in the Black American community, there is infighting and blacks killing blacks. It happens. In every group in the world, people kill their own. Unfortunately, it happens. And yes, there's also been police brutality against black people too. So, if there's an issue with the black community and they highlight that their lives matter, so what? If things goes on with Chinese people and highlight their lives matter, why would you complain? I mean, if your house is on fire and the fire department sends their people to quench the fire, would it be proper for other people whose houses are not on fire to start complaining, why is this house getting much attention? Our houses matter too. Yeah, your house matters too, absolutely, but your house is not the one on fire right now, right? So people should not pay attention to your house for a moment, pay attention to that house. The only reason you would be upset that one house is on fire gets attention is if you have a vested interest in that house going down. And guess what? When Asians in the United States became the target of hate crimes, and hate crimes increased, they got the anti-Asian hate crime bill very quickly. But there has been many black apologists emphasizing for uh, a legislation, federal legislation against lynching black folks specifically. They didn't get it. How come there is a legislation specifically to protect Asian people? And it happened within less than a year. That shows you that all those people complaining about why they say Black Lives Matter, it should be all lives matter. That was an artificial conflict. Because there were people saying blue lives matter. No human being has a color blue. It meant about the police. They were talking about the police. They said all lives matter, but white lives matter. But why is when you said black lives matter, people got triggered? It's because something about the term black upsets them. And that is what should have been addressed. People talk about, no, George Soros, he was the one that founded Black Lives Matter. It's a globalist, a leftist ideology. I don't care if all of that surrounding it is true. Why is it when the Asians got a specific treatment, people kind of were silent? When the blacks got a specific treatment, suddenly now it's a problem. So what I'm pointing out is that an artificial conflict is when the people decide to make a problem of something that's not even problematic because there's an actual problem going on that they're part of that they don't want to have exposed. Okay? Now let's go further. There was this time that somewhere, I believe it was in, I don't know whether it was Wisconsin or any of those American states, there was this guy that he cheated on his wife with another man. And that became big news in the local community. Well, it could have been, I don't know, it was somewhere in the United States. Problem was, in that same community, there was a lot of theft going on, a lot of domestic violence, a lot of child abuse. So the community was quite neglectful. But the thing we were talking about is this one man cheating on his wife with another man. Of course, that man cheating on his wife with another man is horrible, and he's also insulting the community. Of course, the community should address it. But why are they so focused on that thing only? It is because all the other stuff, that's the fault of the public. The public doesn't want to take responsibility for it. That's why. So understand the following. Whether it's on a national scale, like with anti-Asian hate crime or Black Lives Matter, or whether it has to do with the situation in Ukraine, whatever, or it's on a local scale, artificial conflicts are the norm in the world. You may even have your own parents starting artificial conflicts with you. Maybe while you grew up, I hope this didn't happen to you, but some of us, we went through our parents arguing with us. Then it's saying, you young people don't show any respect. Now your parents begin to act like the victim, like young people, including you, don't value them. And you don't think, what the heck? I mean, isn't it that the older generation also younger? Shouldn't the older generation leave something for the younger? Yes. And if there's some young people who don't appreciate, okay, that's sad, but why play the victim? Here's why. Your mom and dad may have done shit to other people when they were younger, and now things are hitting back at them. And they don't want you to notice that. This is why they want you to feel bad about yourself for so-called disrespecting them, so that you don't pay attention to them and ask them the proper, the hard questions. Okay, let me give another example. Let's say you have an uncle, for example, and he has a lot of health issues. A lot of them. He's in and out of the hospital. At some point, you ask yourself, why is it my uncle always have those health issues? And then you also notice that there are not that many people supporting your uncle while he has a lot of health issues. And you think, okay, this is a bit weird. Long story short, you hear your uncle complaining about how horrible people in the world are, that people don't really care about you unless they can get something out of you. Your uncle's on and on about how people did them wrong. But then you decide to look into his past, do a background check on your uncle, something you never did before, and you figure out, hold on a minute. This man used to be blunt and cruel towards other people, not caring how he affects other people with his mouth. This man caused people to become suicidal by the harsh comments he made about them. This man, he treated people like trash if they couldn't get something out of them. This man disliked a lot of people. But guess what? Most of the people he disliked moved on in life. And now, because you have spiritual understanding, you understand, if you're negatively invested against someone, anytime the individual counters that negative investment, the aura shoots back at you. So now you figure, okay, all these people my uncle disliked, all of them are well off in life, and he's the one with health issues now. So things are backfiring on your uncle. Instead of your uncle may think, you know what, I should have treated people better when I was younger, or I shouldn't have disliked those people. You know what? I'm sorry. I should become a better human being. Instead of him for faithing his negative investments, he doesn't even want to admit he was wrong. He doesn't want to be sorry. He doesn't want to have to admit that he is unreliable and unsafe to be around. Instead, he's having a pity party, and he begins to argue with other people just to make him look like he's the victim. That's an artificial conflict. The real problem is it's his own narcissistic attitude that caused him to have all these health issues. That is something that needs to be addressed. But hey, he never wants to go there. And if you ever try to go there, he will lose it on you. Artificial conflicts are the norm in society. Now, okay, whether a conflict is based in reality or a conflict is artificial, it's still conflict. And we should all want to solve conflicts peacefully as soon as possible, absolutely. Just understand, you can never solve an artificial conflict. The only thing you can do is to walk away from it and not participate. You cannot solve an artificial conflict because there's no actual difficulty to deal with. It's a fabricated difficulty that eventually becomes a real difficulty. Why? Because there's something else they don't want to give up or they want to admit. Simple as that. Another artificial conflict that's common worldwide is the promotion of self-help gurus. Why are self-help gurus promoted so much? If you notice well, there is no self-help guru that ever admits the community is at fault. They'll tell you they tell you if your life is going down right now, it's because of you, not your parents, not society, not Satan, it's you. They also put everything on you. Now, hold on. As a human being, you should self-reflect and check your own contribution. Absolutely. And you should take responsibility for your contribution and you should dedicate to be better. Absolutely. But as a human being, you're not the only being on the earth. There are other human beings around too. For example, they say things as, oh, in the law of attraction, law of assumption, you have to meditate well with your mind. Everything that happens in your life is a result of your mind's meditation. Hold on a minute. You're not the only human being on earth meditating with your mind. There are other people on the earth too. So how come it's impossible then that you can solve it as a result of someone else's imagination? It happened throughout history. The people had stupid imaginations that turned into policies and others were hurt by it. Think about the Second World War, for example. So what I'm saying is, why is it those self-help gurus always put the blame on you, the individual, and say it's all in your power to fix your life? Even though you're obviously affected by other people around you. Because those self-help gurus are creating an artificial conflict. They're blaming you for everything that happens in your life that's wrong. Instead of them saying, you know what? Check your environment. Check the people around you. If people around you are toxic, dissociate from them. They're bad people. Take your responsibility, do your part, but listen, it's not all on you. That's realistic and that's beneficial. Instead, a lot of self-help gurus have this toxic message in which they tell you, oh, you can use the law of attraction, you can use the law of assumption, you can use this trick to get things done in life, you can manifest. But then it turns around and say, it's all on you when things don't work out. They also have this toxic twist. While doing that, they want you to start doubting yourself, start blaming yourself, and end up mentally insane, hurting yourself because you keep beating yourself up. They want you to end up like that so that people can use it as an excuse to not take responsibility towards you. Everyone will say, well, he's the crazy one. Look what he's doing to himself. So those self-help gurus, whether they do it on purpose or not, they're part of a movement that creates artificial conflicts that eventually will harm people so that the actual culprit, which is society, and with their neglect, is never addressed. So I want you to examine those around you. I want you to examine what goes on around, not to examine the issues around you also, and look at the full situation. Don't just look at the incident. Look at the full situation. Don't just say, oh, this individual says things that are true. Just because you say things that are true doesn't mean that you're in the truth. Demons can say things that are true. Doesn't mean they're in the truth. That doesn't mean they're beneficial. No. Too often, we look at both sides of the story. Let's look at the whole story to see if the story adds up. So if you have one woman being upset about the situation, and I have another woman she's upset with giving her side of the story, okay, forget the side of the story for a moment. Okay, look at both sides of the story, but look if the whole story adds up to begin with. And if you notice the story itself doesn't add up, ask yourself, who is hiding something? Because when there's an artificial conflict, there's always something embarrassing or something neglectful that's being hidden. Simple as that. And don't be mistaken. If you get too close to the truth what's going on, you may even have people trying to take your life. Or trying to catch you in a mental asylum through false accusations or whatever. I'm telling you, do not be sucked into artificial conflicts. It is a real conflict. We have to look at how to solve this to come to a beneficial solution that works in the long term. If it's an artificial conflict, you just smile and you leave the situation in a peaceful mood. Never engage in artificial conflict. Often we engage in artificial conflicts without being aware it's an artificial conflict. So learn to examine things. Was it for now. Keep it clear in Christ and be at peace.